There's a phrase that I sometimes use, come as you are, be as you are, that exemplifies the way that we show up in meditation practice. So sometimes when we come to meditate, especially perhaps in groups, there's a sort of kind of posturing that can begin to happen as though we have to somehow bring a different version of ourselves, a better version, a more spiritual version, a more awake version, a more aware version, a more present version. So today I would like to just draw your attention to that. If that is something that you notice in retrospect that you did as you arrived here today. And I'd like to invite you to just be as you are, to come as you are and to be as you are. And what does that even mean? And it's an invitation also in meditation to practice a way of being that we can also bring into our lives as well. Oftentimes in our lives, we also sort of posture in different situations. We put ourselves together, we hold ourselves up. And what would it be to let all of that go? And one helpful thing I find is to really just let our bodies land here, to just kind of let down. Because oftentimes when there's that posturing happening, there's kind of a squeezing inwards and an upward pull, and the shoulders sometimes will rise as well. And oftentimes a lot of the energy will go into the head. And so this invitation to bring attention down, to let our body settle into gravity, also invites a kind of a letting go of any of that holding together and up and in that we might be doing, oftentimes unconsciously. To let that habit fall apart, if you will. So we're letting the body really give itself to gravity. And we're bringing particular awareness today to those tendencies that we have to hold ourselves in a particular way. As we rest into the earth, we can let all of these patterns that we have that really form our conditioned self or the ego, we can let them fall apart gradually in their own time as we feel this deep invitation to rest just as we are. And of course, any moment, there can be a tendency for the analytical mind to divide our experience into the parts of it that we like and the parts of it that we don't like, and to tend to kind of push away or reject or ignore those parts that we don't like, and maybe even to grasp at those parts that we do enjoy. And so to come as we are is just to acknowledge that as human beings, that's what we do. But once we bring awareness to this pattern, it's the beginning of the end of it, you could say. The light of awareness begins to dissolve anything that isn't authentic. So we can practice letting our body be just as it is. It's obviously arrived here just as it is. And until there's any mental add-ons, it just is what it is, with its comfort, with its discomfort, with its satiety, with its hunger, with its fatigue, with its energy. So do your best not to resist any parts of your experience that the mind might have been habitually judging. So if you're tired, let yourself be here in that state. Don't push against it. Actually, it will make you more tired. And just as you resist pain as well, it just creates more pain because there's no energy flow there. And the same for tension. When we invite the tension to come as it is and to be as it is, it feels welcomed. And just like you, when you feel welcomed, you begin to relax a little bit. And this can really highlight the tendency that we have to be very critical of our body and what it's doing. So it's okay to notice that. But in this case, when we bring awareness, we're taking a step back. So we're not enmeshed with the criticism, we're just watching that tendency. And we're not believing it or disbelieving it, we're just letting it be. And this is how we unwind patterns that aren't serving us. We don't go to war against them, we just begin to really bring awareness to them, like step back and bring this more spacious presence to them, which allows us to disengage. We're also not posturing in the opposite direction, saying things like, "Oh, I love my body. My body does so much good for me," which may be true, but it's just another way of posturing. It's like putting on this spiritual or positive personality, and that too creates contraction and moves us away from just being as we are. So just let the body arrive and land and settle exactly as it is. And notice how that affects your capacity for presence. How that affects your overall experience of this moment. And I'd like to draw our attention now to the mental realm and to just the thoughts that might be running through our mind or the overall state of our mind right now. And it too is welcome to come here exactly as it is. So if it's busy, if it's distracted, if it keeps hooking into some story that's unrelated to what we're doing right now, again, you can let that be as it is. And that gives you the opportunity to sort of lean back out of it a bit and to be less enmeshed with where the stories might want to be taking you. So acknowledge how our mind has arrived here today. Sometimes when we sit in meditation, we believe that right from the beginning, our mind needs to be quiet and calm. But actually, meditation has nothing to do with what the mind is doing. Meditation is beyond the mind. It's a different track altogether. So the mind is permitted to do exactly what it is doing, which then is actually quite conducive to it calming down. So we recognize that we are the perceiver of the mind, just as we are the perceiver of the body. And our emotional being is also given the space to arrive here, to be here just as it is. So there's always a particular emotional tone to our moment. Sometimes it feels more pleasant than others. But again, there we have to let go of separating into the things we like and the things we don't like, even though it's okay to have likes and dislikes, but to not use any energy to separate them out or to try to make them stay. In other words, we're completely letting go of control. And so when we come as we are and we be as we are, all of the energy that's usually used to micromanage our moment can come back to rest. And in that rest, we may begin to sense certain qualities that feel quite inherent to our being, quite pleasant, like peace and spaciousness, comfort and the mystery. And we just rest there. There's nothing more to do. The doer that tends to want to fix and find solutions is also welcome here. And given permission to rest for a bit, so that we can experience what our moment is like without that interference from the doer or the solution finder. And we may experience from the fullness of our being that it's actually more pleasant to just be as we are. There's also a connection to a sense of more possibility. We're not so caged in. A sense of freedom, a sense of all is well. So, for the remainder of meditation today, I invite you to continue to just be as you are. And to even let that micromanager who is going to want to keep getting involved, let it be as it is. And then you become the perceiver, and it loses its power to obscure your true nature.